Honored to be here tonight on behalf of our proud city and our great community partners at the Save the Ackworth History Foundation. We welcome you together, all of you here tonight. Welcome you to the Larry and Gayle Nelson celebration. You know, if you have been to any events and you've been around Ackworth here in recent years, you know that we love to celebrate. We look for every opportunity to come together and to celebrate. Tonight, we're going to celebrate Larry and Gayle Nelson. It is an honored tradition that we celebrate special people in our community. People who have accomplished great achievements, people that we're proud of. We celebrate people that have contributed to our quality of life, people that have actually made our life better. So we begin our celebration tonight, as we do with many great opportunities. We begin this celebration tonight with a proclamation to Larry and Gayle Nelson. And I'm going to read that proclamation and then present the proclamation to them. So our proclamation reads like this. It's Larry and Gayle Nelson Day in Ackworth. Larry Nelson is a professional American golfer who has been inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame, the Georgia Golf Hall of Fame, and is the recipient of the PGA Distinguished Service Award for his lifetime achievements in professional golf. Larry's golf achievements have been supported and shared by his wife, his lifelong soulmate, an Ackworth native, Gayle Harrison, for the past 56 years. Did I get that right? There we are. Larry was raised in Ackworth. He graduated from North Cobb High School, served his country in the United States Army in Vietnam, returned home, graduated from Kennesaw Junior College in 1970. Larry was an outstanding athlete in high school. He excelled in baseball, he excelled on the football field, the basketball court, and at 21 years old, he discovered that he had a natural talent for playing golf. Larry learned to play golf by studying golfer Ben Hogan's book, The 5 Fundamentals of Golf. Larry mastered the fundamentals of golf, turned pro, qualified for the Professional Golfing Association Tour in 1973, and won his very first PGA Tour in 1979. Larry's extraordinary golf career records 41 professional wins, 10 PGA Tour wins, 2 PGA Championships, 1 U.S. Open, then 20 U.S. professional tournament wins. Additionally, Larry was selected for the Ryder Cup teams 3 different times, 3 different years. Larry's extraordinary golf career is about a story about a fellow that is tenacious and has talent and asked God to bless him in a special way. And God did. God found favor. Larry was selected this year as a Memorial Tournament honoree, which recognizes the elite golf championship players. Larry and Gayle are the proud parents of Josh and Drew, proud grandparents of Ariel, Kobe, Caleb, and Noah. And now, it is the opportunity for the Mayor and the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ackworth, the hometown for Larry and Gayle Nelson, to have the great opportunity to recognize Larry Nelson's extraordinary golf achievements and to recognize Larry and Gayle Nelson as extraordinary citizens of Ackworth. And we do hereby proclaim September 15th, that's today, as Larry and Gayle Nelson Day in the city of Ackworth. Let's give them a big hand. So now it's my privilege to ask our Save the Ackworth history partner, Mr. Matt Turner, to come and make some comments about Save the Ackworth History Foundation. Matt, you guys are doing an awesome job.
I don't know how I follow that. Well, it sure is good to see so many familiar faces out here. I know Larry and Gayle were glad to see them.
Can you pull up the map? There you go. Good.
That's a good thing. That's what we were really hoping for. So I got a few people to thank here. I want to thank Mayor Olligood. We've had 2 or 3 meetings with him, and he's a big supporter of our group, as the whole city is. So I always say he's the best mayor in the state of Georgia, so let's give him a hand. I gotta thank the community center here, for working closely with us. We've never put on an event like this. We put on a lot of events, but they usually got 30 or 40 people at them. And, this is a big deal for us, and they've answered all of our questions. So if you want to put on an event, come see them. Let's give them a hand. I got to thank Mike Schroeder and crew at 1885 for this great meal tonight. The restaurant's located right up the street here, and they're one of the best restaurants in Cobb County, so let's give them a hand.
Yeah.
I got to thank our great team at Save Ackworth History. We're the recipient of this money tonight that y'all were spending. I lost my card right here. Well, anyway, this fundraiser. If you check out the back of your program, right below where it shows the sponsors, it'll show you some of our accomplishments. We've done everything from rebuilding old churches to bringing back the Ackworth History Center. And I'd like to call out our board members. Of course, I'm Mac Turner, president. I don't know how that happened. It must have been a lottery pick. But Betsy Brown, our vice president, stand up, Betsy. Ron Leander, secretary. Secretary Keenan, treasurer. One of our board of directors is out of town this week, Kurt Johnson. Louis Bramlett here on video and making pictures over here. And our newest board member, Alan Kemp. Stand up, Alan. I know y'all know his father, Willie B. Kemp. We used to all get banana splits there. And then this young man standing way back here near the window, 17-year-old Andrew Bramlett. He's a history phenom, is all I can tell you. We hired him as our archivist, and he's in his first year at Kennesaw State, so we're really proud to have him. So now I got to thank all the folks who bought a general admission ticket to this. I think we sold about 100 tickets somewhere in that vicinity. And you'll never know what this money means to us, so give yourselves a hand. And the sponsors, what can I say, I think the first 3 rows here, they really stepped up for us. And if you look at the back of your program, that's where they're located. I'm going to go ahead and call them out and have them stand up or hold up their hand. Gene Graham. Howie Turner, my little brother. Dr. Richard Rosenberger and his wife, big supporters of ours. Yvonne Leander, that's the second time I called him. Yvonne's a big supporter of our group too, and part of it. And this next one, in memory of Mickey Cox, that was one of Larry's classmates who passed away in the last year or so. So this table right over here is a memory of him. Ackworth Altoona Charities, right back here. They're big supporters of ours. Ackworth Art Alliance. Anyway, that's Jeff and Kathy Green. Steve Prater. Jimmy and Carolyn Durham. Jimmy and Carolyn are also big supporters of ours. Schindler Performance Institute. Danny Johnston. And the last one is Vino Market. It's got Diana Taylor on here, but it should be Vino Market. I've known Larry, I guess, about all my life. We used to play, we started at Ackworth School. I know a lot of us out here. See Billy Cantrell, he was over there, been gone for a long time. But we all started at Ackworth School, I hate to tell our age, Larry, in the early 1950s. Played all kind of little league sports. And then as a teenager, we started to make our way to the pool room. And, played with some older guys, and some of our buddies were there too. And I think that's where we learned, like Larry's friend said, Lee Trevino said, playing a $5 Nassau with $2 in our pocket. Remember that? But anyway, we had some great times. So Larry and Gayle, y'all have come full circle. You started out in Ackworth, traveled all over the world, and tonight you return to where it all started. Welcome home. Now I'm going to ask Billy Cantrell to come up, one of Larry's old friends.
All right, I wish I could explain to y'all what a privilege it is for me to be here tonight to participate in this celebration of Larry and Gayle. And first of all, I want to thank Betsy Lewis Brown, who called me and asked me if I would be happy to introduce Larry and Gayle. And I said I would, and I said, how much time do I have? And they said 5 minutes. And I said, 5 minutes? I've known the man all my life. But anyway, I'm thrilled to be here. I spent 19 great years in Ackworth. This is where I grew up. Unfortunately for me, in 1966, my parents moved, and so guess what? I did too. But, and my dad called me right before Thanksgiving when I was a sophomore at the University of Georgia and said, we don't live in Ackworth anymore. And I said, well, all right, where do I come? And they said, Tucker, Georgia. So that's where I've been. In fact, my father, T.C. Cantrell, was the first principal of North Cobb High School. One of the great privileges I had growing up is knowing Larry and Gayle. I can't remember a time when Larry wasn't my friend. Now, I know he was born in Alabama. I'm fully aware of that. But as far back as I can remember, Larry was my friend and always has been a great friend. Gayle came along somewhere in between there, and I'm going to say a little bit more about that in just a minute. But as I thought about tonight and what I could say, this question came to my mind. And it says, how did a small country boy, a small country boy who grew up in a small country town, who was not raised belonging to a country club, who went to a school that didn't play golf, end up where he is today? And I came up with 5 things. Now I know there's a lot of other things that push Larry and Gayle along, but the 5 I came up with is this. Number 1, the families they were born into. As far as I'm concerned, the Harrisons and the Nelsons were the salt of the earth. They were great people. They were wonderful people.
Get closer to the mic.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
I knew you'd tell me something.
Thank
But
you.
anyway, there's no doubt that Larry and Gayle were both born with traits and characteristics that were inborn. It came from their parents. But it's also, what I know, is a lot of their traits and characteristics were those which came because their parents instilled those into them. And those were characteristics that they were going to need for the journey they were going to be on. So I tell you, when those two families blended together, it could only result in success, and it obviously has. The second thing I wanted to that came to my mind is that much of Larry's success is due to the beautiful lady sitting right over here to his left. Now, most of us men, we know that success that we have is due to the strong woman supporting him and backing him up. And Larry, as I know, is no exception to this rule. I still remember when Larry told me that he was going to start dating Gayle. And being the encourager that that I always was, I said, "You're right." Matter of fact, Eddie, you're gonna be out pounding your coverage. And you did. But he not only started dating him, he married her. And she's been with him step by step through his great career. The third thing that I mentioned, and the mayor already mentioned it, the mayor was a great athlete. Maybe a little bit small. Matter of fact, when we were in grammar school, we used to call him Little Larry, and I had a grandmother that called him Half Pint. But you know, it didn't bother Larry at all, and as the mayor said, whatever sport he encountered, he was very successful at it. And obviously, when he took up golf, he was very successful at that as well. The fourth thing that came to my mind that helped Larry and Gayle along was this community. And I've heard for so many years how y'all have supported him, been behind him, and I'm telling you, that could not have helped but to have motivated them and pushed them along and drive them along to succeed. And then number 5, and maybe most important, is that when Larry and Gayle were first on the PGA Tour, they started going to a Bible study. And as I understand, during that time, they got a few things straightened out and totally committed their lives to Jesus Christ. And that kind of cemented everything together. As a result of these 5 conclusions or things that I just mentioned, Larry and Gayle became successful people that they are today. They're dedicated to their goal, they're determined, they're confident, they're people of integrity, they're kind, they're patient, they're under control, and they're self-controlled. And the mayor mentioned many of the things that all of that resulted into. The 41 professional tournaments from the PGA, the 2 PGA championships, the US Open Championship, so many things and several more. I think there was several tournaments you won even in Japan, in Europe. So it's a great pleasure to me tonight to introduce our special guest tonight, Larry and Gayle Nelson.
Thank you very much. Listen, I should just give this to Gayle and respond to all that, but I really don't know how to respond other than just say, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you just for the friendship over the years, and actually the ability to see all of you tonight. I appreciate y'all being here. Some old friends, some new friends. So it's just been much more than I expected. Much more than I expected. And just the kind words, kind of one of those things from, I can't remember what movie it was, We're Not Worthy. Anyway, just thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the great words, nice words and introductions. And I have not much else to say. Would you like to add something to that?
Just to say that we are touched beyond description, just that each of you took the time, but you didn't just take the time tonight. You have all along, all through the years, you've been not just our friends, but you've been family, and we appreciate it. We appreciate it so much. I've been part of the Ackworth community all of my life. My Daddy was born in a farmhouse out in the Mars Hill community, and his father was raised out in that area. We have Harrison's here tonight, and a lot of people that knew that background. My mother came from South Georgia when she was 18 years old. Her father was Dr. E.S. Davis, and they became a part of the community. Larry's folks moved from Alabama when he was 5, and I was 3. And Bill said he didn't remember not knowing Larry. Well, I don't remember not knowing Larry. And each of you, though, have been an integral part of every bit of our lives, and just to see you all here tonight is a blessing that is beyond description. And we thank you.
Well, I could probably talk for at least 5 minutes, but this is one of those things where, we have been to a lot of these, and I know that y'all have been to a lot of these, and you can have a speaker that'll speak for 45 minutes and never answer any of the questions that you had, really the reason why you came. So Gayle and I thought it would be best that we would just really kind of open it up to questions. I mean, some of you know us enough to ask us questions, and some of you know enough about golf to maybe ask questions, but anyway, we just felt like that would be kind of the best way to do this. And we promise to kind of end on time, to get y'all out of here, get y'all home, so we can get
All right,
started.
yeah, I'll be glad to get this started. I always wondered if you knew during your career that every Sunday afternoon there was a phone call at 4 o'clock from Dad, and everybody else got the same phone call that said, Larry's one behind, he's on 16. Well, everybody dropped everything they did and ran to the TV, and we enjoyed that so much. I'm going to start, Yvonne's going to have a microphone. We're going to walk around the room looking for questions. Just raise your hand, we'll come see you. Please start off by saying your name. I'm going to start off with the first question. Larry, if you had one round of golf, what would be your dream foursome?
Good question.
Alan, it's a really good question. I get this asked a few times, but I had a chance to play with Arnold Palmer as my partner twice down at Disney World, and so he would be one of the guys. The other one would be my dad, because he never played golf growing up, and he didn't actually start playing until I was already on the tour. And it got to where he could shoot his age. He shot his age at 72, but he loved the game. He loved people, so I wouldn't have to carry any of the conversation. Dad would talk the whole time. The other person would be Billy Graham. Because of him, I actually came to know the Lord. He came to a Bible study that we had in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the fellowship, the tour had a fellowship, and he came that. So I can listen to a lot of people, but I knew of Billy, I knew of him, so it was good for Gayle and I to go to that meeting. So those three guys I would love to play with.
That's a great answer.
I have a question, Larry.
Yes.
Well, I would like to say that on behalf of all of us who went to school with you and Gayle both, we are so proud of the way that you lived your life, so that we can be proud of your calling us your hometown and your our friends forever. The question I have is, or the request is, I know that I've heard you talk about one of the first times that your father saw you play. Can you relate that story?
Yes. This is, for all the golfers out here, you will probably understand this one, but the first tournament I played in was actually the Tournament Players Championship at Atlanta Country Club. This was the first opportunity for my father, who taught me to do everything. Taught me to shoot the basketball, taught me to pitch, taught me to catch, taught me to hit. I mean, he was in all my sporting life, but he never played golf. So he and Mom, we drove from Ackworth here over to Atlanta Country Club to play in my first tournament for him to see. and I played awful. I shot, well, 275s. I missed the cut by 4 or 5 shots, and it was not very good. So we're pulling out of Atlanta Country Club. My father and mom sitting in the back seat, and my father tapped me on the shoulder as we pulled out of Atlanta Country Club, and he says, "Son, you know I don't know anything about golf, but," he says, "if I were you, I would try to hit it a little closer to where those flags are." So anyway, it was one of those things that it was the best advice I ever got. That's what I tried to do for the rest of my career. But anyway, it was always fun. He was my biggest critic, and he was my biggest advocate. I mean, Billy knows, we played basketball. My father, I'll tell you this quick little story here. I scored 32 points in one game at North Cobb. And I was so excited because I knew when I got out on the court after we took a shower and everything, my father was going to say, "Great game, boy, we're really proud of you." First thing he says was, "You know, you'd scored 34 if you hadn't missed that layup." So anyway, it was just kind of one of those things that he always kept my feet to the fire. And so.
Questions? Raise your hand if you have a question. Danny?
Thanks, Al. So Al and I were talking about this earlier, Larry. He asked his question. As a matter of fact, that was such a good question, I was going to ask it if you didn't. So anyway, but I'm curious, being a golfer, sort of, if you can think of a shot you hit that you said, I shouldn't hit this shot, it's stupid, and then you did it anyway, and it was one of the greatest shots you ever hit.
Well, I can think of one that didn't turn out the greatest one.
That counts.
I can think I had won the U.S. Open in '83 and then in Augusta in '84. I am tied for the lead after birdieing the 11th hole the last day. And so I was very pumped up, very excited, and walking up to the 12th tee, I was trying to say, calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down, and it never happened. So I ended up hitting a 6-iron, very fat. Fat is really behind it. So I didn't know whether it was going to get to the water or not. That's how bad I hit it. But anyway, I made double bogey there, I think. Crenshaw ended up winning the tournament that year. So people asked me about if I could take one shot back during my whole career, it would be the 6-iron that I hit on the 12th hole at Augusta National. But Danny, I appreciate you asking that question.
My name is Lennox Black, and I've known Larry and Gayle a long time. My question is for Gayle.
Amen.
Gayle, what did you think the first time Larry came home and said, "I'm going to become a professional golfer"?
Well, number one, I thought he had lost his mind because our plan, yes, was that he was going to finish school, and we were trying to get over a financial hump, and he convinced me that he was taking the job as an assistant pro just to get us there, get us through. And actually, Linus, originally, I think that was his thought, but I guess golf got in his blood, and one thing led to another. Neither one of us had any clue where it was going to take us. I mean, God just opened doors. Larry worked hard, and we just, it was as if we were just riding on a train through it all. Those first 2 years that he worked at Pantry Country Club, I hardly ever saw him. I worked and was off on the weekend. He only was off on Mondays. We got to see each other Christmas Day, and that was about it. And during that time, he would go in early or stay late and practice in addition to working. So we had no idea that he was going to begin that. And I've got to go forward want to tell you when he had the opportunity to actually leave country and start playing competitively. He had put his name in trying to get a job up in Carsville at a head pro position up there at the Carsville Country Club. And it came down to 2 people, and Larry was the last one not to get chosen. And we were very disappointed. And the people who loved him and surrounded him at Pine Tree also recognized his disappointment, and a group of men encouraged him to start trying to play competitively. And when he came home and said something about our leaving the area and his starting to play golf for a living, I had no idea how on earth we could do that. But we were young and we were stupid. We had our car paid for, we didn't have kids yet, we didn't have any debt. And so we were able to start, we just went with it. And 2 years later, he qualified for the tour. Or 1 year later after that, 2 years after Pine Tree, and 1 year playing in the tours.
Well, to follow that, Ray and Julia, your mom and dad were just great people in Ackworth. You wonder in those early years, did your dad ever come to you and say, honey, you think you might want to look for somebody with a real job?
My daddy loved Larry. And if Larry did it, it was right and it was okay. So I don't know, I'm sure they were so practical and so reasonable. I'm sure that, behind closed doors, they probably did think we were crazy, but they supported us, they loved on us. When we packed up and left town, what little bit we owned, we packed in boxes and lined Mother's dining room with it, and it stayed there for years and years and years because even after he went on tour, it was several years before we had a home. So they just said go and do, and they were wonderful.
That's awesome.
My name's Mike Williams. Most people know me as Mickey for years. I was there in the beginning, watched Larry fall in love with this game of golf. This question's for Gayle. Gayle, where were you? Who were you talking to when your parents found out they were expecting your first child?
He wants this word up, so. Well, we actually got to tell Mother and Daddy when we were expecting Drew, but I will tell you, I think the story you may be looking for is we found out that I was pregnant when he was in Palm Springs playing in a tournament, and we had decided, I was laying the law down to Larry, now we're not going to tell anyone until we get home and we can tell everyone face to face. And lo and behold, I'm in the room with a little one who's not able to go to the golf course yet, and watching Larry on TV, and he's playing great. And so he ended up finishing second at the Bob Hope Desert Classic, and Bob Hope interviewed Larry. And I guess he was excited because, as Bob Hope was saying, well, this is a great week for you, you played good. And Larry says, yes, and we just found out that my wife is pregnant. What?
Yeah, I had a tendency to open my mouth too. But let me just tell you this quick little story. You just talked about the Harrisons. When we backed out of the driveway after we got married, she's 17, I'm 19. I'm in the Army, and we're headed to Texas because I'm at Fort Hood, okay? And I looked at the driveway, and her mom's crying, her dad's got tears in her eyes, and they didn't know where we were going, and we didn't know where we were going when we left Ackworth to go out to Fort Hood, Texas. I didn't even have a place to live. So we ended up, the closest places we could get near Fort Hood was Lampasas, Texas. And I would leave on Monday morning. Now she's 17, remember. I would leave on Monday morning to go to Fort Hood. We had no telephone, no way of getting in touch. And she didn't know when I left Monday morning whether I was going to be back that afternoon at 6 or Friday afternoon at 6. So this young lady at 17 grew up really quick. She cried a lot, but she grew up really quick. So anyway, it's a testimony really to someone who's 17 years old, her upbringing or whatever, that she made it through that time. Questions?
Hey Larry, my name is Chris Savage, and I grew up at Pine Tree on the number 7 fairway. My father's name was Bob. You might have known him when you were there. My question is, I know you played a lot of golf, and I'm sure you remember number 7 at Pine Tree. We lived right in the dog leg. I want to know how many balls you sliced in my backyard in the 2 years you were there.
Number 7, those pine trees when I was there weren't that tall, so I could drive it over those pine trees.
Oh, okay.
But you're out there, it was far enough away where I didn't hit it down there too much, but played with a lot of guys that did. So yeah, you were in a very lucky spot. You probably found a lot of golf balls in that.
My father used to take Macy's shopping bags, those big old Macy's shopping bags full of golf balls up to the pro shop and exchange them for equipment.
Yes, I can understand that.
Thank you.
We have a question over here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Tommy Long. I used to play sports with Larry in North Cobb, but I was in Nashville for 30 years, and I used to follow Larry around when he played with Vince Gill. Do you still stay in touch with Vince Gill?
I have not. When they had we had an occasion here where he actually came down and sung, or I guess he down in here. Yeah, distinguished service thing that the PGA gave me, and they asked him to come down and sing and do that. And so that's actually the last time I've seen him. But I used to go play.
Played in Vinny.
Oh yeah, I used to go play in the Vinny or what, and I do have a guitar that he signed. So Gayle said if anything ever happened to me, she could make a little money off of it. So, but
Another question I had was, did you ever have a hole-in-one during tournament play?
actually, all the hole-in-ones I've had were tournament golf. I never had a hole-in-one just practicing or just playing. They were all, I've had 8, and they were all during tournaments. But when you're playing with somebody who has 32, it didn't seem like it was so good.
We have another question over here.
Yes.
Oh,
Is it Bobby, he said?
Hello, my name is Bobby, and I just wanted to know what your favorite club was in your bag.
That's a good question. Reason why it's a good question is because a lot of times you practice with the club that you feel like you hit the best. And my 6-iron was a club that I felt like if I hit it well, then I was going to hit all the other clubs well. But then I played with Tom Watson quite a bit, and he always started off with a 3-iron. And I never really got to a 3-iron. I didn't like hitting a 3-iron. So people have different ones, but I always felt like the 6-iron was important to me. If I hit it good, I could hit it okay. Thank you for the question, Mike.
Hey, I'm Little Bill Hamilton. I've got a question that's kind of emotionally attached. Between the support system of Mr. Ray and Mr. Vernon and lovely wife, Miss Gayle, did you ever not believe that you could rule the world and win it all?
That honestly, when there were bad things happening, it was always good to talk to Ray. He was always so positive, and just kind of made you feel good. He never seemed to be down at all. And my dad, it was always good to hear what he had to say, because in love, he would always say, well, you need to do this, and even though he didn't know that much about it, but he wanted to coach, and I always respected the fact that that's what he did. But yeah, we were surrounded by very positive, very loving people. Would you like to say something like that? Okay. She's quiet.
Hello, Mr. Nelson. My name is
Yes.
Craig Wilbanks. This is a little off the path, I guess. Gentleman by the name of Bert Seagraves.
Yes.
I took a lot of lessons from him, and I wonder what kind of impact and influence he had on your career.
Bert Seagraves was the head professional at Pine Tree Country Club when I turned professional. He's the guy that I worked for 2 years there. And I owe Bert a lot. Bert, one, he had enough faith in me to let me work for him for 2 years, but he gave me the Ben Hogan's book, and told me that if I wanted to learn how to swing the golf club, to read this book. And since I was kind of a math major, that kind of book fit good. You could do this, and you went to the next step, you know, 5 different steps. And so that was the way I learned how to play. And I really, it really meant a lot to me. And there was one person when Gayle and I were thinking about quitting our jobs, and going down to play the mini tours. I went in to talk to him, and I said, "What do you think, Bert? What do you think about us doing this?" And he said, "The only thing I can say is if you don't try it, you may always regret it." And so that was something that kind of, even though I was not very aggressive, you know, doing certain things and all that kind of stuff, just him saying, well, you know, both of you can get a job if it doesn't work, you know. So he thought that if I didn't go, that I would always regret it. And I mean, that was true. He also said other thing. He said, shots don't lie. And so that's the way I practice, basically. You can tell by where you're hitting the ball, what you're doing when you're swinging. And so that kind of got me through my career. Really. Thank you.
My question to you is, today's equivalent that's on tour, how would it affected your game back then compared to today? And a follow-up, what's the camaraderie like your era compared to now?
Yeah, it's, you know, we came off the tour literally from nowhere. Gayle and I did. So our friends basically were the Bible study. I mean, honestly, they were the groups there, because we were pretty much all qualifiers. You know, we traveled from town to town trying to find a place to play, practice, and then try to qualify. This was early on. This was in the 74 time. Plus, it was a time when we rationed gas. So can you imagine going across the desert, Texas, Arizona, not knowing if the next place was going to have gas or not? Plus, the speed limit was 55 miles an hour. So everywhere you went, whether it was through Texas, Arizona, or whatever, it was 55 miles an hour. It hadn't been for Stuckey's, we'd have starved to death. So, but the camaraderie was a little bit different because everybody came from different, from colleges or whatever, different parts of the country, and people had to qualify. So it was not like everybody was exempt. Like it is today, you know, the guys played together in college or were good friends in amateur tournaments. They played against everybody since they were 5 or 6 years old. And so the camaraderie probably is better now than it was then. So it means a lot if you like the person you're traveling with, which we enjoy traveling together. But also that small little group that we saw every Friday night, or was it Friday night or Thursday, Tuesday night? Tuesday night when we met together, that group was kind of our fan base, our competitors, our encouragers. So that's kind of how we made it through.
Okay, here's another question.
And equipment changed quite a bit. I would love to have played with some of the clubs they're playing with now when I could actually swing. But I can tell you that I played Atlanta Country Club. The first time I played there was probably 74, but I played there every year until I turned 70. But with the new equipment, I hit the ball further at 70 than I did when I played it when I was 28. So that's the difference in the ball, the clubs, and all that stuff. So, yes.
My name is Donna Taylor, and I was wondering, what was your hardest tournament?
My hardest tournament? My hardest tournament. Probably the U.S. Open '83. When I say it was the hardest one, Gayle and I, we got up there with two small children, and my clubs didn't get up the same time we did. The plane sent them somewhere else, or the people with Eastern Airlines. Eastern Airlines, y'all remember Eastern. But my clubs went somewhere, and we went to Pittsburgh. So when I got to the golf course, I didn't have my clubs, I couldn't practice. Fortunate enough to have a putter in the pro shop. The pro had the same putter that I was using, so I was able to practice. So I didn't get to play 18 holes, but I played 9 one day on Tuesday afternoon when my clubs got there, and then Wednesday afternoon. So that was my hardest, and I got off to a really kind of a bad start. But I ended up playing really good on the weekend, and ended up winning, beating Tom Watson by 1 shot that week. And Seve Ballesteros and Tom Watson, the last round, were 1 shot ahead of me. And I played well enough the last day to beat Watson by 1. So that was my hardest tournament, I think. You agree? Especially if you're having to take care of a 3 and a 5-year-old.
To follow that question, was there one event that you were more nervous or bigger adrenaline rush than any other, because you've been in so many, between the Masters, your very first tournament, the majors, British Open, the Ryder Cup? Did one make you more nervous? Or?
Yeah, I've got to tell you the story. This is the answer to that question. Great introductions and all that, but the best introduction I ever had was actually when I played with Arnold Palmer down at Disney, because I had won, I think, maybe 5 events at that time, and he was my partner, and they introduced us on the first hole as the team of Larry Nelson and Arnold Palmer, who have combined to win 70 events. So I always thought that was really pretty good. It's hard to kind of top that introduction, but I think hitting that tee shot with Arnold as my partner off the first tee probably was the most nervous I was, especially after the introduction. So, but that was mine.
I'm Donna Vaughn, and this question is, can you hear me?
Yes.
This question is for Gayle. Has Larry ever given you golf lessons?
You should let me answer that.
Yes, after Drew and Josh, I guess Josh was 10 or 9 and Drew was 11, they became more interested in golf. And so I thought that as a good mother, I needed to be able to play golf with my boys. And so I asked Larry to give me some lessons. And he is so patient, and he was so good, and he gave me 2 or 3 lessons. And I decided that I would be a wonderful mother, but not play golf. I think that made Larry very happy.
I thought she was going to say that I gave her 2 lessons and she started playing tennis.
Hi, this question is for Gayle. I'm Pat Daniel. My daughter has a really good friend that is married to a pro golfer these days. And her benefit is a lot of designer clothing and other things, jewelry and the such. What were some of your benefits you would identify being a golf pro wife back in your days?
It's a different story now. Purses are just so different. When we first went out on tour, we were driving everywhere. We couldn't afford to fly. When those first couple of years, if we ever spent more than $20 a night on a motel room, that was past our budget. We stayed in rooms that had screen doors. So, it was not very glossy at that point. Now, we have been blessed with, I would say, our greatest benefit has been just opening the door to the world for us and getting the opportunity as the years came along to travel, to meet new people, to have new experiences, to see places I would have ever never have seen, and yet still come back home. Truthfully, it's already been alluded to, but even though Larry and I were both raised in the church, we came to know of the Lord at a different level in a personal way on tour. So by far, that has been our greatest joy and our greatest blessing and benefit.
Hey Larry, my name is David Hoey.
Hey David.
First of all, I want to say of all the people that I've talked, at all the golf courses that know you, the first thing they say is how humble they are, which is much appreciated. But who would you say is the best ball striker you've seen in person that you've gotten to play with?
I think probably you kind of put them in two different categories. Nicholas was the best thinker, probably not the best ball striker that I ever played with, but he got it done. It seemed like it didn't sound solid, but it always got on the green somehow. I mean, it was always pretty close to the hole and that kind of stuff. Probably the guy that hit it the most solid of all of them I played with was actually Miller Barber, which is really kind of strange because a lot of people that don't know golf back then would not have known who Miller Barber was. But he didn't have a very good swing, or what I say, he never had something that looked pretty. Everybody kind of swings the same now, but everybody swung differently back then. And he hit the ball probably as solid with a driver as anybody I've ever seen. And guys like Nicholas and Palmer and, well, all the guys would stop by Trevino to watch him hit a driver, which is really amazing when you think about that. And I was fortunate enough to pretty much play with everyone from Sam Snead to Tiger Woods during my career. So I saw a lot of people play. I think Mickelson probably the only person that played really good earlier that I didn't play with. But after seeing all those guys, those two were the people that I enjoyed playing with, enjoyed watching hit balls.
Okay, here's a question.
I'm Jerry. This is my wife Liz, and her heart just stopped because she said, "Do not ask a question."
Liz, I appreciate that, but he's always that way anyway. So it's
Okay. You shared with us a little bit about you and your dad's relationship, but you're a dad as well. And you had the opportunity to do something, if I'm not mistaken, very few people have ever had that. And that is, you won the father-son championship with both your sons, didn't you?
I did.
Can you give us some insight what that was like, both as a parent and then as a competitor? And then, Gayle, if you can kind of share with us as the wife and the mother, what that was like?
And Jerry, that's a great question. And we were very fortunate. We played in the first father and son. I don't even know when that was, but NBC showed that. And there were 10. I mean, Nicholas had his kids there. Arnold had his grandson, Lee Trevino. I mean, it was a great time. Everyone to the professional said that was the tournament they looked forward to every year. That was the tournament because they could actually play with their children, play with their son in a competitive atmosphere. So we played, quite a few years, and we finally had an opportunity to win in Drew and I won the first time. And that made the second one so much harder. You have two sons, you won with the first one, and you're playing with the second one, and you're not winning. And so finally we had an opportunity the last day to win. I had a chance to win with Josh, and we ended up winning. And it was the most pressure packed, except for one other issue. One other time we played at Disney World. Disney World had a little par 3 there, and they had kind of a father-son. This is when our kids were 8 and 10, or 6 and 8. And I made about a 15-footer for my 8-year-old Drew. And now I've got a 6-footer to make for my younger son. And I tell the press room, when they come in, they ask me, what was the most pressure putt you ever had? I said it was a 6-footer that I had to make for my 6-year-old to tie my 8-year-old, his 8-year-old brother. So anyway, pressure is what you put on yourself. You know, it doesn't come from the outside, it really comes from the inside. So, but that was the most pressure that I ever had.
We have a question.
Claire, I wonder what were your most favorite and your hardest golf courses to play, and what was the most beautiful?
The hardest golf course I ever played was Butler National, where we played the Western Open for years. And when we played there, it was in Chicago. First time we played there, I shot 10 over and finished 4th. Or something like that. I mean, it was not an open golf course. This was just not a U.S. Open. This was just a regular golf course. So that was the hardest golf course I ever played. The prettiest one, or the most beautiful, most aesthetic, was probably out in Pebble Beach area, Cypress Point. Was probably the prettiest golf course I ever played. I mean, it was 3 golf courses in one. We had forest holes, we had sand dune holes, and we had ocean cliff holes. So, I mean, we always enjoyed going back there every year.
Do we have a question?
Mike Williams again. Larry, I'm not sure if I read this or if you told me this later.
If it's not true, you just...
During the 83 Open, didn't you use 2 different swings? You kind of changed it on Saturday or something to make it even...
Well, actually, what I did at the U.S. Open, I didn't change a swing, but I changed my approach to each shot, being the approach. Because for golfers out here, you know, if you see trouble, if you see a lake or you see a creek or you see whatever, you get a little nervous and you don't make the same swing because you don't want to hit it in the lake, creek, or whatever. At Oakmont, the rough was real high, the bunkers were real deep, the fairways were kind of narrow, so I got a little tense. And what I decided to do was something that I'd heard Nicholas do, which was pick out a little spot about 6 to 8 inches in front of your ball and aim to that spot. But he had enough confidence once he aimed to look down the fairway. What I decided to do, because every time I looked down the fairway, all I saw was the rough, the bunkers, the water, whatever. So I never looked down. I just lined up to that spot and then made my swing. And I started hitting the ball really well. And by the end of the week, by back 9 on Sunday, I got to where I had enough confidence in my swing that it didn't matter what was out there. I felt like I could hit it in the fairway. So that's probably what you're referring to, is I did change my approach, but I didn't change my swing.
2 more questions.
2 more?
2 more.
Larry, my name's Bobby Graham.
Yes.
My question to you is, what do you think of the PGA Tour today? What is your opinion of LIV Golf and the PGA?
Well, I'm really sorry that the LIV came into fruition. I'm sorry that it has had the effect on the tour that it's had. You know, the tour was moving along really pretty good. I mean, every year, Sam Snead was always jealous of the amount of money that we made. You know, he played 10 or 15 years earlier. Even though what I made in my career was much more than Arnold made in his career, even though he won 60-something tournaments. And Nicholas was the same way. So the money changes, but it really jumped when Tiger came out in '97 and just continued to escalate. But when you think about it, I mean, some of the baseball players we see right now are making, what, $90,000 a year, or $90 million a year, or $25 million a year, or whatever. They sign these $250 million contracts to play. So the guys that are, you're watching on television, it's not out of perspective to what other good athletes are doing. So we are a little jealous. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a little bit of envy and jealousy in that. But I think that's just the way sports goes and the way the economy goes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we were blessed very much during our time, so we can't really complain. Didn't do you any good anyway. But I'm just hoping that the LIV tour either goes by the wayside and the tour can survive.
I believe this will be the last question, but this question is to both of you. If you could go back and live the magic moment of one victory, would it be your first win? Would it be an Open, a PGA, a Ryder Cup, father-son victory? And this is for both of you. Which one would you love to relive that one moment, that one victory?
Well, I'll start it off. I think winning the U.S. Open up at Oakmont, having the opportunity to win a national championship, everybody wants to win that tournament, and they have so many people that try to qualify and all that. And I think I look at the picture that was taken after we had won, and we were sitting at the presentation, the trophy presentation, and I could see the look on my face. It was more just satisfaction that I had accomplished something. And in '83, I'd only been playing golf for 12, 13 years. I mean, so this had been a quick time to get to that point. And all I could think of was just the satisfaction, and that's what the picture kind of revealed at that point.
I have
Gayle, answer that.
I think if I had to go back and capture a magic moment, it was '81 when he won his first major at Atlanta Athletic Club, the PGA Championship. And a lot of that was because there are different people here tonight that got to share that with us. And it was amazing as Larry finished up, just getting to walk around and visit with people and to have that experience. Because an experience that is wonderful by yourself is one thing, but an experience shared is a whole different quality.
I think that does conclude our questions. Mac, I don't think we've talked about the silent auction. Would you like to give just a little bit about that?
I don't have any idea how many. We do have some bids, right?
I can't. Oh, the bids are closed.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the results from it.
Okay, I was just asked by somebody to, elaborate on that. But that would be a question. I have one last question, and it's selfishly for Gayle. As one hometown person to another, who do you look back, just a few of the people that really had an impact on your life?
Oh, my word.
The ones we grew up with.
Well, I've got to mention, I think my sister, she's not here tonight, but I'm very, very close to her. And she just loved on me all my life to an incredible quality. And I saw times in her life when she went through struggles, and I saw her battle through those things. and it teaches you a lot and teaches you how to maybe overcome things that you need to, I think.
Thank you.
My name is Butch Price, and I'm on the Akron City Council. And Mac and I were talking about this event, and we felt like that there was a story that ought to be told that Larry and Gayle started, but they probably never really knew how the story went, and they certainly didn't know how it ended. So I was nominated to tell that story. If all of you people who play golf remember when Centennial Golf Course opened, and Larry pretty much made it known that the main purpose of opening that course was to give Vernon and Ray something to do during their retirement years. And Larry told Ray, he said, get you about 7 or 8 guys and play golf with them, as much as y'all want to, and told Vernon that. Vernon, and they got their group together, and some of the guys who were in that original crowd sitting over on that table where I was sitting, like Jim Traylor and Henry Nettles and some of those guys, Willie B. Kemp, Gene Cheatham, a lot of those guys that are not with us today, but they were in that original group of golfers that Larry set up that course basically for them. And today, there is still a group of senior golfers known as the Vernon Nelson, Ray Harrison Senior Golf Group, still together playing golf today. And so the story that we want to tell that they really don't know the details of was when we were, I was an early retiree, retired when I was about 22, and I was playing golf out at Centennial, and I was in that group, and one afternoon, Rudell Nelson came by the house, and she said, Larry called, and he would like for you to go with Ray and Vernon to a tournament that he was getting ready to play in Birmingham, the Bruno Classic. I think it was right around 2000 or 2001. And because Larry kind of felt like at that point that may be the last time that Vernon and Ray could watch him play in person. And Rudell said, would you be kind enough to go along with them and kind of look after them and that kind of stuff? And I said, well, yeah. I mean, I was thinking if we were going to go in, Gene Cheatham had a motor home at that time, and we did a little traveling in that, so I kind of thought that's what we'd be traveling in. And she said, Larry's going to send a Lear jet down to McCollum Airport and pick y'all up on a Saturday morning. I believe it was a Saturday morning. And of course, the excitement really built at that point. Rudell said, now, Ray's going, Vernon's going, and you're going. Said, get 2 more guys to go. And she said, I'd like for Gene Cheatham and Jerry Ingram to go. So that was the 5, whatever you wanted to call country boys from Hackworth going to a Bruno Classic in Birmingham. So we go down to McCollum Airport early on Saturday morning and wait around, and here comes the Lear jet, sits down out there, and the guys the pilots get off and go inside, and they talk, and they put us on the plane. And I'd never been on a Lear, but it had 2 sort of bench seats like this, and then it had a big 3-seater in the back, and the 2 bench, and then it had a couple of captain's chairs right behind the bench seats. So Vernon got in the right side and cocked his legs up on the bench, and And so the guys, the pilot came back there and said, now y'all strap in, because we getting ready to go. And so we all, and I'm sitting in the back where there's 3 pretty nice seats, and Ray's sitting with me and Gene, and then Vernon sitting up there, and Jerry England sitting over on the other side. And those pilots came back in and they set up, I really don't remember how, but there was a cooler that had Coca-Colas and that kind of stuff in it, had ice and ice water and all that. And they must have forgot to strap it in. I don't know what happened. But we go down to the end of the runway, and that thing took off, and it said like that, and that cooler came flying back on the burner. It poured out all over him. He was wet from head to toe. And I want to think I think it was 13 to 15 minutes we were coming down in Birmingham. And Vernon is soaking wet, and the pilots looked back there and they said, fellas said there'll be a van waiting to pick y'all up. And sure enough, we got off the plane, walk over there, and there's a guy, sort of like you see on television, a show free comes out, and come on fellas, get in, and you have to know Vernon to appreciate what I'm about to say. Vernon said, when we got in the van, he said, fella, he said, 2 things I need you to do. He said, number 1, drive through, he said, don't go straight to this golf course right now. He said, drive through some of the neighborhoods. He said, there may be a yard sale. And so, that guy, he didn't really know how to take that. And so he honestly drove us through 3 or 4 Vestavia Hills neighborhood, run the yard sale for Vernon. If you know Vernon, you know what that means. And then Vernon said, secondly, find me a thrift store so I can get some clothes. And the guy was gracious enough to drive us somewhere. We got out, Vernon got his clothes, put it in a sack. So we get to the golf course, and Gayle meets us at whatever gate she told us to be at, and she gave us our passes, and we put those things, around our neck, and that allowed us to go into the clubhouse where the Champions Tour players, I guess they come in there and eat or something, but we had access to that. And so Vernon's still soaking wet, and he got his sack, and we start down this, and they've got a tunnel, sort of a covered walkway, must have been 30 or 40 yards long, a couple of security guards standing down near the door. And so we start walking down there because that's where they told us, Gayle told us to go, said go there, and you can go in there and get you a snack and get ready, and said, and Vernon said, I can change clothes in there. So those security guards, we made the assumption because they started moving toward us, and we thought they probably think, who are these birds trying to come down through here where only the players and families go? And Vernon corrected them, and they welcomed us in, and Vernon got to go in and change clothes, and of course we got to speak to some of the players, which we appreciated. And then we spent the rest of the day watching the golf tournament, and it was a wonderful event that day. And so the van guy picks us up. You getting pretty close to getting dark. And the van guy picks us up, takes us back to the airport, and the plane is sitting there waiting for us. And we didn't know this was occurring, but Jeffrey Donahue, I believe at that time, worked at McCollum Airport, or part-time or whatever, Mike's son, Jeffrey. And that's when Cowboys was big down in Kennesaw. All you people know about Cowboys. Well, they used to have a lot of celebrities that would come in and sing. And when the old boys down at the airport got word that there was a Lear jet coming in, they would call all the buddies that say, we don't know who it is, but there's got to be a cowboy in. And so we understand that Jeffrey had accumulated a big gathering of some of his buddies there, and that plane pulls up and stops, and Vernon Nelson is the first one off, and so and they said Jeffrey and that crew was so disappointed. They said, what's Vernon Nelson doing? So Larry, we hope he, I don't think he ever heard that, but that's how it all went.
You know, Butch Price can tell a story. Aren't you glad you came tonight? See, together, what we've heard tonight, we've heard about Larry and Gayle Nelson's life. We've heard a story. It's an amazing family story. So, about Gayle and Larry as they did something together, and the kids were all part of what they did. The kids and the family were all part of this great success story that you've heard. It's an inspirational story, as Larry reminds us that it takes courage, it takes talent, and it takes a lot of tenacity to achieve and to become a recognized and renowned world golfer. But this Larry Nelson story and Gayle Nelson story is really more about their heart's desire to not only to achieve, but to honor God's blessings, the blessings that God has given them in their life. You heard that tonight, and for me, that's going to be my takeaway tonight. How, as we're blessed, to give back and to recognize and to thank God for all of our blessings. So, we want to end tonight by something, a really special opportunity that we've got. We first of all want to tell you how proud we are of you, of both of you. And we're going to ask you to come up. I want you to come right here. Butch is going to stand on one side. I want you to stand right here on this side. And we're going to take this opportunity to have a special dedication. And if you'll kind of grab this right here, and Butch is going to hold the back and grab. You have to do this very slowly. Hold on. Hold on. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the opportunity to have a special dedication. The dedication really will kind of encompass where you lived, where you grew up, where you went to high school. And we're going to take this opportunity to do something really special, to forever change the name of a street in our community. So I want you to pull this down. And from your neighborhood of where you grew up, to beginning there, to North Cobb High School, there's a new name change, and it's the Larry Nelson Highway.
Well, I don't know what to say. I really have no other. If anybody knew how many times I rode my bicycle down this road to Ackworth, I even rode my horse one time down this road up to Ackworth. So, listen, I'm just blown away. Both Gayle and I are just lack words to say how much we appreciate this. We did not expect this. This was certainly under our radar. So, but we appreciate it very much. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for being part of this. You're as much part of this as I am. Gayle, thank you for hanging in there with all the bogeys for a whole bunch of years. And guys, just thank you so much. I appreciate it.